What up, everybody? It is Chris Roscoe with Operation Moksha, and today I wanted to give a little mental health support guidance thing to help everybody deal with quarantine. This is going to be really fucking difficult, you know? For the most part, I mean, I live in America, and for the most part, a lot of us do as much as we possibly can to avoid actually sitting still in one place for a prolonged period of time. Even though there's this really popular meme of like everybody wants to stay home and all that sort of stuff, it's kind of different when you have to. And it's kind of different when you have a prolonged period of time, because even the most introverted of us will still go out and do things and make contact with the outside world fairly frequently. And without the ability to do that in meaningful ways outside of getting your supplies, that can start to weigh on your mental health a little bit. And so I want to provide a free resource, which is basically going to be my shadow integration curriculum, kind of adapted to fit our own unique circumstances that we currently find ourselves in. So the first thing that I always teach in shadow integration is to have a vision, because in my experience and in my personal opinion, shadow integration is a means to an end. It's a means to accomplish something. And to me, that something is self-actualization. And so in the context of quarantine, what kind of person do you actually want to be? How do you actually want your life to go in the face of quarantine? For me, it's like I want to be working out, every day if possible, but I want to be doing something to keep my body active. I want to be doing something creative. I want to be doing something fun. I want to be doing something that serves the greater good. And I also need to find a way to sustain myself. And so knowing that I'm not going to be able to leave my fucking house for who knows how long, what does that actually look like for me? Can I wake up excited about being there for my community? Can I wake up excited about finding things that can make my day feel meaningful and like I'm contributing and like I'm still even able to have fun without leaving the house? That isn't just in repetitive mind-numbing ways, because I know we're all going to like lean heavily into Netflix and all those sorts of things, but that's probably going to get old really quick. And so we want to have a vision of what sorts of things and what sort of lifestyle we can live while in quarantine that will actually make our life feel meaningful and fulfilling and worthwhile. So create a vision for yourself is always the number one thing, because it's impossible to hit a target that you can't see and that you can't aim for. So make sure you have a solid target in your head. Imagine what it would be like to actually have a really good routine of like, okay, I'm waking up and I'm going to exercise and like, great, yay, I'm going to eat whatever I can eat. Whatever I can make for myself, like obviously that's going to be a little bit different now. But I'm going to like make food for myself. I'm going to get whatever exercise I can get. I'm going to contribute to my community in meaningful ways. I'm going to, I have my drum kit back here. I'm learning how to make clothes and all sorts of stuff. So it's like, cool, I've got all these fun things. And then I can watch movies and stuff to kind of supplement that. So basically what I'm trying to get at here is like, what's your version of your ideal life or your ideal self while in quarantine? It might take a little bit of time to flesh that out, but it would be really in your best interest to get a solid idea of what your best self and what your best life would essentially look like under these conditions. So that's always the first step. And then the second step that I always teach in shadow integration is to pay attention to the parts of your personality that oppose that. Like if you have some part of you that's just like, oh, this is going to suck and there's nothing I can do that'll make this worthwhile and, this is just going to be terrible and I'm so afraid of all these different things, those would be great internal voices to take note of. Because those are going to be kind of the things that you have to contend with for as long as we're in this circumstance, which we don't know how long we're going to be in. Could be a short amount of time, could be, a decent amount of time. We don't know. So taking stock of all the parts of your personality and all the voices in your head and all the uncomfortable emotions and all these things that you're going to have to contend with can make them a lot easier to deal with. 9 times out of 10, just getting these things out of your head and onto a piece of paper or onto a recording like this or something can do a great amount of good to give you a lay of the land in your psychological landscape, so to speak. It's like, it's one thing to go into quarantine and you have these little voices in your head that are picking at you and all kinds of things and making it difficult, and all you can do is try to cope with them. But if you get them out on paper, you can actually take a look at them and be like, okay, these are all the programs that are running in my head that are going to surface at varying different times, and they're directly in opposition, or they might at least get in the way or make it more difficult for me to live the idealized version of who I'd like to be in quarantine, and who I think would actually be good for me in quarantine, and would actually give me the greatest opportunity for this quarantine to not lead me into a rut that I'm going to have to get myself out of later. Because that's one of the big things about this, is we want to make sure that when we create this vision, and when we take a look at all the different parts of our personality that might get in the way, that we're taking a look at things that will, because we could be doing this for months, and if that's the case, that's plenty of time for neurological patterns to form, and in which case a sedentary lifestyle could become habit, or certain things that we have to do in quarantine time could be habit. And so if you want to be able to exit this quarantine when it's finally time to do that in the most amount of health as humanly possible, you want to keep an eye on what sort of things will give you a positive momentum and positive trajectory if they were to become habits. Like, staying in your PJs all the time, not really going to be the best habit. It might feel really good, but it could potentially send some really interesting signals to your brain that having to readjust and going out could be a fucking shock if it's like been months or something like that. So this is why I'm dressed in normal clothes. Like, I don't have to do anything really. I mean, I have to go pick up my girlfriend from the airport, but that's not until later. So the clothes that you wear and all these sorts of things can play a really big impact on these things. So be careful of any parts of your personality that might take you away from your practices and take you away from the ideal version of yourself. So those are the 2 steps so far. Create a vision for what it is that you actually want to be doing and who you actually want to be in these circumstances. And then secondly, take stock of all the different parts of your personality that might get in the way of you being able to fulfill on that long term. Now, the next thing that you want to do after taking note of all those things is get to know these parts of your personality. But there's a distinction that I want to make. You want to get to know them to the degree that you need to. Because here's a really big warning I want to give you about doing shadow work, especially in quarantine. It can be very, very, very tempting, because I've seen this in myself. I've seen this in a lot of other people, where you're like, oh, I'm just going to go and look all the things, and I'm going to process all the emotions, and I'm going to integrate all the different parts of my personality. And I appreciate the gusto and the enthusiasm and the passion and all that sort of stuff. But you are still going to want to fucking slow your roll and make sure that your shadow integration is in service of something. Because, like I said, we could create some really interesting patterns and some really interesting habits during this time. And if you're going really deep into your shadow without necessarily intending to accomplish something, or without the intention of having it turn you into somebody worth being in these times, then you could get stuck in there. You could get lost in there. You could find that you just dug around in there and didn't really accomplish anything. So that's why I suggested having the vision in the first place. So as you're going in there and you're getting to know all these different parts of your personality, like, I wonder why I think this is hopeless. Or I wonder why I feel defeated by this, or I wonder why I'm feeling lonely, or like all these sorts of things. You can get to know you can start to process all these emotions. Because here's what ends up happening is you've got your vision, right? And you're going to be moving in the direction of momentum towards your vision of like keeping on your practices, making sure that you're contributing to your community in meaningful ways, or whatever it is that's going to keep you happy and with a sense of fulfillment and meaning throughout this process. And then all these different parts of your personality are going to have something to say about it. And the real big distinction between who's going to win here, whether it's your conscious decisions or your unconscious emotions, that's going to be entirely dependent on how you relate to the unconscious emotions. If you treat them as if they're bad and they're a problem and they're going to get in your way and they could potentially lead you down some really dark path, then that's actually what they become. Your unconscious mind essentially becomes whatever you treat it as. If you treat your unconscious mind as something that is a burden and something that is bad and to be avoided and to be conquered and shoved down into a deep dark hole, it will mirror that and kind of become a giant nuisance in your life. But if you take a look at these different parts of your personality and you treat them as potentially valid concerns that may have something to teach you, then that's exactly what they will become. You know, if you're thinking, oh, this is going to suck, this is really going to be terrible, I don't know if my life is ever going to be the same again, like, well, that could be really important information. It's like, in what ways would my life potentially never be the same again? What things should I actually be concerned about? And being loving and caring with these types of your personality for giving you access to your own internal wisdom of what might be good to look out for. Now, that can be extremely difficult because these different parts of your personality may be very loud, and they may be very afraid, and they may be very frantic, and they may be very sad, or They might feel completely defeated, or all these different things. They could exist in a current state of emotional health that is extremely difficult to be with. But if you can allow yourself to be with that discomfort and sort of weather the storm, so to speak, there's always a nugget of wisdom at the bottom. And we're going to get to that next. But there's a lot to be gained just in building a positive relationship with these different parts of your personality. Because the integration piece, which I'm about to go into, is the practical element of it, but there's also the emotional element of all these sort of things. If you're going to integrate emotion, there's two things you have to look out for. The first thing to look out for is the emotional health of any different part of your personality that you're looking at. If you feel if some part of you feels completely defeated, then it's like, wow, hey dude, like, let me help you out. Like, what is it that has you feeling defeated exactly? Like, is there something specifically that you're concerned about that you think maybe you can't tackle? Like, let's work together and see if maybe we can find a way to tackle the thing. Or at least let me be here for you so you know that no matter what happens, I will never abandon you. And that someone will always have your back, and that no matter what goes on, we'll be able to figure it out. That is a really, really, really key thing to be able to communicate to yourself. And the way that you communicate that to yourself is by being present with these different parts of your personality, no matter how uncomfortable it might make you. In fact, the more uncomfortable any part of your personality might make you is a direct correlation to how much it needs your help, and how much it needs your presence, and how much it needs your nurturing, and how much it needs your care, and simply honestly just needs you to listen. If any of these parts of your personality are causing you to experience a lot of discomfort, they just need you to be there and listen to them and let it be okay that they feel the way they feel. And again, remember that this is in service of creating the ideal version of yourself and the ideal version of your life that will help you navigate through this quarantine experience. So while you're being there for these different parts of your personality, keep in mind who you want to be. Keep in mind why you went in here in the first place and what nurturing all these different parts of yourself is in service of. And so the number one thing to recommend here is pacing, patience, and compassion. When you're making contact with any new part of your personality, it could be really afraid to open itself up to you. And this is largely because for most of our lives, we've been shoving these things into deep, dark corners, and so why the fuck should they trust us? Why should they feel safe to open themselves up to us? It doesn't really make much sense that they would. So if you can take a look at this from the perspective of you've essentially created an abusive relationship with yourself that you're now trying to mend, and you can say, look, like, I'm sorry I treated you this way. I know you didn't deserve this, and I want to make it right. So I'm going to be here, and you open up to me at the degree to which that works for you, and I'll be here whenever you're ready. No matter how long it takes, I will be here, and I will be grateful for whatever you share with me. That will create the optimal psychological environment to create a sense of safety that will allow all these different parts of your personality to eventually speak up and tell you what they're really worried about and tell you what they really need. And then you can start to address those concerns and you can start to meet those needs. And that will create even more psychological safety. It will create trust. It will also create a sense of resiliency that shows that you can conquer problems as they arise. Because if you can conquer the problems that show up in your own mind, you can conquer all the problems that show up in your life. So it's going to be extremely important to build this emotional resiliency, and it's also going to be really important to be able to actually deal with problems as they arise. And you'll be able to trust yourself to do that if you can deal with uncomfortable parts of your personality that arise. So that is the emotional way to deal with these different parts of yourself. They have to feel safe. They have to be felt. They have to be heard. They have to feel listened to, in order to relax and feel safe and let go of some of these unhealthy patterns that they've been engaging in. But always remember your vision. So far, let's create the vision of what kind of life you want to have during quarantine, what kind of person you want to be during quarantine. And then the second step is notice all the different parts of your personality that may oppose that. The third step is to listen to them and be there for them and let them know that you are going to be there to listen and care and essentially be on their side. Because it's extremely important to know that you have your own back in a time like this. It's extremely important to know that you have your own back, because that will be what allows you to have other people's backs. And that will be what allows you to not be an unnecessary burden on other people. Jordan Peterson has this really cool thing that I like, and he says, like, we should all strive to be the most responsible person at a parent's funeral. And I know that's kind of grim and morbid, not necessarily what we want to hear, but there's really something important there. Is that in a time of crisis, it's important to be the person that others can rely on rather than to be someone who needs to rely on someone else. If for whatever reason you do need to rely on someone else, there's no shame in that. But if we can have more people ready to take roles of leadership and responsibility, the better. And there's going to be things that I have to lean on people for, and I don't have any shame about that. But I will take a look at all the different areas that I can be leaned on, and I will do everything I can to help myself become one of those people. And that all starts with this ability to take care of yourself and to know that you can weather whatever problems surface. So that's going to be a really big thing. Because a lot of people are going to have difficult relationships and difficult emotional reactions to all this stuff. And the more solid we can be in ourselves, the more solid we can be for our communities, and we can all weather this a little bit better. So the very last step is the integration phase. Just being there for a different part of your personality will go a long way. But if you want to fully integrate that part of your personality, after you've listened for the internal wisdom, you have to act in alignment with it, right? Like if some party was like, oh my God, I'm hopelessly fucked. This is never going to, like, everything's going to go to hell and everything's going to be bad. It's like, okay, well, what specific ways are you concerned that that might happen? And while you're caring for this part of your personality, you'll be able to ease some of the panic and ease some of the concern. And then you're listening for real world things to be concerned about. Like, oh, I don't have, like me, I live in LA, right? LA is probably one of the worst places to be at a time like this in case things start to get really sideways. So instead of freaking out about that, I've listened to that part of myself and I've been like, okay, well, what are my alternative plans? It's like my mom lives in Orange County. She's older. She lives in a relatively nice part of Orange County. So I can probably go take care of her if I need to get out of LA. Or I have a friend in this area that I can go stay with who I've already called. You can make like practical arrangements, or like, I'm afraid that I won't have food for X amount of time. Well, it's like, okay, well, let me make extenuating plans to deal with that if and when that surfaces. And this is one of the really beautiful things of the integration phase, of just taking care of these different parts of your psyche is really, really helpful to create emotional ease and emotional safety and all those sorts of things. But once you have that emotional ease and that emotional safety, then what that provides you is the clarity of mind to do something about it. And that's what's really important. If you're worried about certain things, after you calm yourself through the nurturing, then it's like, okay, how much of this do I actually think I need to be concerned with? In the degree to which I do need to be concerned about these things, what actions do I actually have to take? And at what level do I have to take these actions in order to feel like I've actually addressed my concerns? This part's kind of simple. It's really the nurturing part that's the more difficult part. So if you need help with that, let me know. But this is kind of the best way to care for your emotions in a time like this. Have a consistent, solid ideal of who you want to be for yourself, for your family, for your community, and ultimately when quarantine is over. Pay attention to the different parts of your personality that might get in the way of you fulfilling that. Build a relationship with them. Find where they live in your body. Make contact with them through touch. Start getting to know them. Like, where do they live in my body? What temperature are they? Do they have a personality? And start to ask yourself, like, do these parts of me need anything? Is there anything are they holding on to anything that's actually wisdom? Or are they just scared and need someone to be there for them? In which case, can I be there for them? And the degree to which they do have hidden wisdom, can I be there for them to extract that wisdom and act on it? Because we're talking about building self-trust and self-resiliency. And when you watch yourself act in alignment with your authentic concerns and take precautionary measures or do whatever it is you need to do to actually make sure that you are taken care of by your own standards and based on your own internal wisdom, you'll build even more trust with yourself, which will build even more resiliency, which will make your communities even stronger, and all these sort of things. And so when this is all over, we can all actually be much stronger people as a result of this. And that's why this process is so absolutely essential. And I'll go into detail in further videos later about all these different things, but I just wanted to give you a broad overview at this point right now. So even if everything's fine, you know, which it very well might be in just a few months or a few weeks even, who knows? It could get better, could get worse, we don't know. But if you follow these emotional care protocols, you will be a stronger, more resilient person for whatever world emerges, and that's really what we need. Strong collectives are made of strong individuals, and strong individuals are made of strong practices and strong belief systems and strong presence and all these sorts of things. So this is how we can begin to cultivate emotional strength as well as the ability to listen to our own internal wisdom and act on it. You may be feeling the need to call on community. Great. Who should you do that with? Good questions to ask. You might be feeling the need to prep in other certain areas. Is that actually a good idea? To what degree do you need to do that? You can listen to your own internal wisdom to figure out what things you personally want to be concerned about and to help you filter out the things that maybe you don't actually have to worry about. Again, this is a group effort, so not everybody knows everything. In fact, most people don't know everything, but if you listen to enough people while being able to keep yourself calm through the nurturing part of this whole thing, listening to different parts of your personality, letting them know that you'll be there, that'll help you stay grounded, that'll help you stay calm, and that'll help you make sense of all the varying different pieces of advice that are going to be out there in the fucking world in the coming weeks. So clarity of mind and the ability to act on it will be extremely important, and this is going to be a fantastic way to develop that. So I'm going to create more videos as time goes by. Let me know if there's anything that you want me to talk about. I'm going to have to go deeper into each of these individual elements to really parse it out. But for now, I wanted to give a broad general overview of how shadow integration works in quarantine, and what it can be used for in quarantine and all those sorts of things. So I hope this is really helpful. Let me know if there's anything else that I can do for you, any other videos or content that you think might be helpful. Obviously, I'm going to be sitting in my fucking house for the next few weeks, so my sole purpose is to take care of you and to take care of my community and make sure that everybody is mentally and emotionally sound and well taken care of, so that we can all emerge from this potentially better than we went into it. So let me know if there's anything I can do for you. I love you. I am offering single sessions where it's kind of like on a, here's the way that it works, is we can negotiate a price point that works for the both of us to meet both of our needs. And then I will coach you through a significant breakthrough in any area of your life that you need a breakthrough on. Whether you're afraid or whether you're depressed because of the isolation, or maybe you're feeling lonely, and who knows what you could be dealing with. But I will talk to you until we get a significant breakthrough around whatever it is we want, or whatever it is you want for the fee that we've decided. And normally I screen people to make sure that we're a good fit before I take anybody's money. But if for whatever reason I can't get you a significant breakthrough, and if for whatever reason we just don't work well together, then I'll just refund your money and we'll act like the whole thing was a wash. It'll be fine. I don't take money from people I can't help. So don't be worried about spending money on a thing that's either not going to work or like one session isn't enough. Like, I'll stay on the phone with you until we get a significant breakthrough, even though that generally only takes me about 30 to 40 minutes anyway. And if for whatever reason we can't get there, I'll just give you your money back, and I'll suggest you go talk to somebody else who might be able to help you better. So you can DM me for that. We're also going to be coming out with a fairly low-cost support group to get you through this sort of thing, so that if you are experiencing financial difficulties, we're going to discount it like fucking crazy to try and get as many people in there as we possibly can, because community is going to be important, and all sorts of things. So we're going to come out with resources to help support everybody. And for anybody who can't afford any of that stuff, I'm here to provide you with as much valuable free content as I possibly can. So really lean into asking me for questions and support and all that sort of stuff, because I want to be here for you. All right. I love you, and I will see you next time.